Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Universal Mind channel. This is the channel where we discuss the scientific theory of reincarnation and how the universal mind plays an important role in all our lives. Today we're going to continue with part 2 of our series on just exactly what is the theory of reincarnation, the scientific theory. How does it work? And it comes from my book, Reincarnation, the Scientific Theory. Preface this with the following question. Have you ever had a dream where you were awake, lucid, but also in the dream state? Has that ever happened to you? It's happened to me, especially when I was much younger, an awful lot. Those are dreams where you're conscious of what's going on, and yet you're in the dream state. It's right before you wake up in the morning, and these dreams, sometimes you may find a dream that involves an incident, some event that happened at a time and a place about a subject matter that could not have happened to you in this life. Distant land, distant time, and yet it's so real, it's so lucid to you, and so visceral that you actually believe you're living it, and yet you're observing it. You're both participant and observer. How does that happen? I believe it happens because locked away in our neurons are memories of past lives, passed down from one body to the next that we preserve. Our bodies change, but our consciousness, our individuality, cannot change. Natural law says so. So, what is reincarnation? Rebirth, as the Eastern philosophers call it. What is it? I believe reincarnation, and this is from the book Reincarnation, the Scientific Theory. And for those of you who have an interest in the citations that we use, because I do rely upon scientific research from independent researchers around the world. As I've said in the past, the Hubble telescope and the Webb telescope by NASA, those two telescopes have looked back to the dawn of time, and if a God created the heavens and the earth in 7 days, or 8 days, or 100 days, whatever, if God created the universe, then heaven and hell must exist within the universe. Right? Makes sense to me. But yet the Hubble and the Webb telescopes couldn't find either heaven or hell. You know why? Because they don't exist. They don't exist except in the imaginations of our ancient forefathers who used the fear of death and hell. They created this hell, this thing that would happen to people afterwards, after death, to scare people to joining religion. And all religions that employ heaven and hell are guilty of this, because they invoke the same, they use the same fear that everyone has. What's going to happen to me when I die? And they gave him not just the stick of fear, but also the carrot of promise. If you're good, if you join us, if you pay what we want you to pay and do what we tell you to do, so we can control your lives, send you to war, if necessary, as religions have done for millennia. If you do what we say, you go to heaven. We'll create a place, and it's got virgins, or it's got pearly gates, whatever. It's all made up. It was all made up to persuade, entice, fool, and con some illiterates, ignorant people, simple people, unsophisticated people, that they needed to join. And really, if you look at it, it's kind of some people taking advantage of other people's ignorance when they could have taught them the truth or sought it out together and joined the people with them in a true search for truth. Instead, they fed them not holy bread, but holy lies, unholy lies, for power, for greed, for control. And for thousands of years, not hundreds, but thousands of years, people have been born, they've been taught lies, they've led a life of lies, and they've died under the belief of lies, that they'll go to heaven or in their fear hell, simply because they were denied the truth. And souls, the individual consciousnesses that we carry with us as mandated by natural laws, that consciousness has been denied the truth. And that, don't you think, of all the rights we humans have, don't you think the right to the truth of our soul's identity is the most basic truth, most basic right? And to be denied that right, life after life after life, believing lies, is an inherent wrong. And I understand. As the U.S. Constitution says, everyone has the right to choose a religion, and everyone has the right to practice a religion, and I believe in that. My family was raised in a religion. Which one is irrelevant? But also, the Constitution protects the right to oppose, in a reasonable manner, religion, the belief, because I believe it's based upon, to a large extent, intentional lies from ancients. And many well-meaning pastors, clergy, are as indoctrinated as you and I have been. And they believe in good faith that what they've been taught is true. I would too. I would still believe. If I hadn't had certain experiences happen to me when I was young, very young, that we went over in episode 1. Had I not had those, this channel wouldn't exist. But it did. I did die. I did see a different reality when I was 6 years old. And I've had to deal with that reality and the contradiction between what I experienced in my own life versus what people were telling me. All my life I've had to deal with that. And I had to come to the conclusion that objectivity matters, reliability matters, truth matters. Can you prove heaven and hell exist? Can you prove it? Can you show us the place? No, you can't. And Hubble and Webb have looked, and they don't find it because it's not there. And I rely upon science, and I rely upon my own personal experiences. Because aren't we the most reliable witnesses to our own life? I think so. I'm a lawyer and a trial lawyer at that, and I understand that witness testimony is not always reliable. People believe they see something and it doesn't exist. And I think that's true for all of the religious leaders today. They believe in what they say. I give them that. But we only know what we've been taught. And they didn't have the benefit of my life experience, my dying and coming back, and what I observed while I was dead. So I give them that. But I will say this. People say, without religion, humanity would be much worse off. I dispute that. All right? I mean, despite the Inquisition, despite the Crusades, despite the divisiveness and the wars and the violence that we see in the Mideast and have seen it ever since forever, for 2,000 years, it's been going on. Wars between religions, competing for belief, for who's got the better belief. And I think the universal mind looks at this and says, you're all my children. What are you arguing about? You all exist for me. What are you doing to yourselves? Stop it. And if just give me 10% of all the preachers, ministers, clergy, clerics, mullahs, ayatollahs in the world, put them all together. Give me 10% of them that are willing to march for peace, to go to Gaza and say, peace to the Palestinians, peace to the Israelis. Work this out, stop the guns. Immediate ceasefire on both sides. Go to Ukraine, and instead of the Russian Orthodox priests calling Ukrainians ho-hos, which is a slur, and I've seen Orthodox priests in Russia on YouTube saying those, calling Ukrainians ho-hos, using a slur, and yet Orthodox Russian priests have the same identical religious background as Ukrainian priests. Isn't that ridiculous? Isn't that stupid? Isn't that unholy? Isn't that unchristian? Isn't that satanic? And where has religion taken us? In this ultra-competitive environment they've helped create in their competition and wars between each other. It's as demonic as it is irresponsible. And yet I don't believe in demons. But it's as anti the concept that they seek to preach as it can be. And yet they don't have the sense or the compassion or the honesty or the faith to see it. They'd rather fight. And can religious people be willing to fight? Folks, there's another option. It's time to move away from that. It's time to move beyond that. It's time to move beyond what our ancestors taught us. Because what our ancestors have brought forward isn't compatible with our scientific knowledge and our civilization, our civilized awareness as individuals. Every day you see how one more step to world annihilation is taken. Russia with nuclear satellites being developed to explode the Western satellites. North Korea threatening the use of nuclear weapons. Putin threatening the use of nuclear weapons. How can these individuals be allowed? How can humanity allow an individual to threaten world annihilation and get away with it? In America, if you make a threat of violence that places someone in imminent fear of immediate harm, that's an assault, folks. And if it's a deadly weapon being threatened to be used. It's a felony. But Putin and Kim Jong-un, they can say, they can threaten the world, and they can threaten NATO with destruction. Europe, Putin and his people in Russia have threatened to annihilate Europe, Western Europe, and are seeking to annihilate the independent nation of Ukraine for no good reason. And yet they can do it. And here in America, no one there's still debate on whether to support Ukraine. That's asinine. It's clear and obvious danger. It's a clear and present. Putin in Russia, Kim Jong-un and North Korea are clear and present dangers, not only to the safety and security and the defense of the United States, but a clear and present danger to the safety and security of the entire world. And it's time a bipartisan effort was made in this country to take action accordingly. Because I tell you this, the universal mind is everywhere in all of us. It's our conscience. It's our conscience. It's in all our minds. And it's not silent in the face of suffering. It's not silent in the face of oppression. It's not silent in the face of fascist totalitarianism. And history will record what we do in these next few months and years. We will be judged as individuals and as a generation as to whether or not we had the will and the fortitude and the character to stand up and face down oppression, face down what Putin's trying to do and Kim Jong-un's trying to do, or whether we're willing to just stand by and let it happen like the League of Nations did in the 30s when Hitler was raising his ugly head. Don't let history repeat itself. Because ultimately, the longer we kick this can down the road, the greater the repercussions later. Because sooner or later there will be a confrontation. It's coming. And the longer we wait, the longer we put it off, the worse it's going to be. Why do I care about this as well as, well, I did a master's thesis. I got a master's degree in international relations. I don't have an undergraduate degree. I got into graduate school after my sophomore year. And I did my thesis on counterterrorism. So I'm well acquainted. And I've kept up on what's going on in the world. Just because I'm a trial lawyer doesn't mean I don't stay current. Yeah. So it's given me a perspective most people may not have. Enough. We're here to talk about reincarnation. What is it? Reincarnation is an evolutionary process of conserving individuality. Oh, let me go back. Sorry. I got off on this tangent by saying, what if 10% of religious leaders took a stand together and walked together? Can you imagine, one last point, can you imagine what would happen in this world if 5% of the religious leaders in this world came together and began marching against gun violence, assault weapons being used against innocent people without any real effort by legislators, either on state side or in the federal government, in Congress. No real effort. Everybody, all our political leaders, they love to say nice words, to side with the suffering. But did they lift one finger to change the laws, to make it more difficult to get assault weapons, to make it more difficult to get other weapons? If our religious leaders took a stand and began marching, the world would take notice, wouldn't they? And isn't that their job? To take a moral stand against racism, against the oppression of LGBTQ plus people who suffer and who are being denied their rights and being violently treated, not only by criminals, but by governments. They're people too. They have souls too. They matter too. They're not going to go to hell. Hell doesn't exist, people. You know, and I have news for you. You know, you may think LGBTQ plus people may go to hell, but you're not going to heaven because they don't exist. So where are you? You're stuck facing yourself in the mirror. You're stuck looking at a pond and seeing your own reflection of hate and divisiveness. When you cast out anybody because of their lifestyle, because of what they feel they need in order to be alive without hurting others. And they're not hurting anyone. The problem is it's a simple one. Our reaction to our environments have been locked in by political, religious leaders that have access to grind for greed and for power, especially power over the lives of others, for their own good, for their own benefit and wealth and position, so that they feel good. Do you think Trump gets up every day and says, "What can I do today to help the world?" Do you really think he says that to himself? No. I think what he says to himself every day is, "What can I do today to help Donald Trump?" Donald Trump says to himself, my life is dedicated to me. Because I'm the only person that really should exist. There should be nobody in the world but me. And maybe Putin, because he's my buddy. I kiss his ring. Like I did Kim Jong-un's. And I kissed Putin's ring in Iceland. After I became president, we had that little private meeting, and it was so nice. Just the two of us saying whatever, because there was no transcript, made public of that. There's no transcript of what those two thugs said to each other. What did Putin say to his little puppet, Trump? What did Trump say to his master, Putin? We don't know what deals were struck, what promises and what debts, unwritten and unholy, Trump owes the KGB prince of death in Russia, Putin. We don't know. I don't think we'll ever know, because it's not in Trump's best interest or Putin's to reveal them. Let's go on. Reincarnation, rebirth, is an evolutionary process, we believe, of conserving individuality from one life to another. By using multiple physiological and biochemical processes that conform to fundamental laws of nature, individuality is transferred from the dying to the living. That's what we believe. It is a harmonic transfer of information, obeying classical and quantum mechanical principles. we define existence itself as a state of being of coherent energy, whose main purpose appears to be the pursuit of ever more complex expressions of individuality. We exist eternally, I believe, as coherent energy, but that coherent energy experiences transformations in the form of changes of phase states of matter, energy expression, that we come to know and refer to as lifetimes. And we have a lifetime, a physical lifetime. We're in physical form. During the transition from one life to another, we phase into another state of existence, non-physical. But that transition is temporary, to assist in our consciousness being transferred, transported from our dying self, after the consciousness leaves the dying body, to another body. And if you don't believe it, prove me wrong. I don't think you can. And what I'm going to try to convey to you and persuade you is that there is evidence here, not that it doesn't exist, but that it does. And I'm going to rely upon science, independent research, to prove my point. So let's define life as an intermediate state of existence phased in biological form. One of the purposes of life is the acquisition, reflection upon, and sharing of ever more complex information that enhances the expression of ever more complex forms of individuality, of who we are. Where does reincarnation come from as a physiological and a physical process? 1. The universe is a closed system of energy and matter. This is our living environment. It's a closed system, like a steam engine. The laws of thermodynamics apply. It's a living environment existing in a state of increasing entropy, increasing uncertainty. The living environment creates information in the form of sensory stimuli. Into this experiential tableau are placed living creatures. These creatures must use their sensory organs to navigate the perils of their living environment. The purpose is simple: survival. Survival of the fittest, natural selection, becomes an end to itself, apparently. It's called evolution. But some believe evolution has no purpose other than simple survival. I don't agree with that. I believe they're wrong. I believe there's more to existence than survival. Species survival, or species survivability, isn't the purpose of evolution, not the end result. It's not the reason d'etre of evolution. Survival is the simple catalyst. Survival is the natural catalyst to force individual living beings to make choices. From one-celled bacteria to humans, all living things throughout time have been forced to make choices to survive. Do I run from that wild animal, or do I stay here? That's as blatant and clear as you can get. Do I go this way, or do I go that way? That way is the danger, the other way is safety. Which way do I go? Evolution. If you go the wrong way, you're dead. Your DNA dies with you. The creature that turns the other way and survives, his DNA lives on. His ability to make that choice, that critical decision which way to go, survives. Every lifetime, every step along the evolutionary trail begins there. Which way do I go, and why? The more one evolves, the greater one's complexity of existence. The greater one's complexity of existence, the more complex evolution must become. All the choices individual creatures make are necessary for natural selection to function. Choose correctly and you survive to procreate and improve the gene pool. Choose incorrectly, you die. Your genes are lost forever. One cannot study how life evolved from microscopic amoeba to the highly complex human beings we've become without sensing and appreciating evolution's logical progression. There's a definite purpose to evolution. What purpose? Beyond ever-increasing complexity of individual expression, beyond that, we've yet to understand. Some argue that evolution has no purpose beyond survivability. This is like saying the universe has no purpose at all, except to exist. They lack the vision to see beyond their narrow focus of scientific expertise. The bottom line is that we all think we know about evolution, but it remains an enigma even to the best and brightest of us. We know what evolution's done to us. That's easy. We are what we are. But we have no clue what it will be doing to us in the future. No physical process exists without a purpose. We know nothing about evolution's origin. Where did it come from? How was it created, organically or artificially? How did it become part of our biological cellular makeup? We don't know. Until we can answer those questions, we can't say we have a clue on the more pressing question. Where is evolution leading us? And what's more, why? Evolution creates ever-increasing complexity of information, and the biological processes necessary to adapt it for survival. As the environment increases in complexity, so do our cognitive abilities. One begins to see both environment and evolution as interrelated. They're connected. They're both ends of a rubber band, where one pulls the other leads, or the other follows. Among the many adaptations that evolution adds to our cognitive abilities, the most important is that of memory. Without memory, there's no awareness. There's no self-awareness. There's no ability to make decisions that change our behavior over time. Over time, the information stored in human memory becomes the framework within which the consequences of the choices we make become our emotions. This emotional memory is a unique blend of information plus emotion, individuality. I do something. I raise my hammer and I hit my thumb. Ow, I hurt, pain. Don't do that again. That's information, folks. Literal, simple, basic. Next time, I'm more careful. I'm an elephant with a pack of elephants. We walk down a trail. We take a choice. Do we go left or right? Some of us go one way. They're eaten by predators. I go the other way. I'm not going that way anymore. I'm never going down that road, the death road, ever again, or at all. I have information. Natural laws prevent the destruction of energy and information. Human death, though, interferes with human conservation. Death would end our self-awareness, our individuality. It would eliminate everything we know. Can death do that? Certainly if the mind, the consciousness, is tied to the body. But it's not. The body is temporal. The mind, the consciousness, is eternal. As evolution must obey natural laws, biological adaptations would be constructed through evolution to ensure that individuality is conserved as unique information. Just as evolution gave us an opposable thumb, it gave us rebirth. Just as evolution increased our brain power and gave us prefrontal lobes so that we can reflect upon what we do before we do something else, something new. We can reflect upon what we've done in the past. Just as evolution's done that, it has given us a means by which to preserve who we've become so that we don't cease to exist as individual beings, energy beings, from one life to the next. That consciousness is transferred. Now, I believe this is an ultimate truth. I'm quoting All About Entropy, the Laws of Thermodynamics and Order from Disorder, 2001, from the Archives of Science, retrieved at entropylaw.com. Quote, the laws of thermodynamics are special laws that sit above the ordinary laws of nature, as laws about laws, or laws upon which the others depend. It can be successfully shown that without the first and second laws of thermodynamics, there could be no other laws at all. We're going to get into that next time and continue our exploration of reincarnation. This is the Universal Mind Channel. I appreciate your being present. This is not for everyone. I understand that. But this channel is dedicated to be a spiritual home to those who aren't satisfied with what religion has provided us and look to science and their own personal experiences for guidance and their own inner voices. I thank you. We may be contacted at the Universal Mind Channel at gmail.com if you have any questions or wish to share your own personal experience in your spiritual journey. That's the Universal Mind Channel at gmail.com. Have a good day. See you soon.